Hi.
Really?
Hi there. Tom. So we're going over industry overviews, Turkey. Our abstract is to address that Turkey is an ideal country to participate in manufacturing home appliances, improvements in infrastructure, IT advances, and recovering the overall economic deficit a few years back. So its financial status, Turkey remains dependent on a lot of local investments trying to recover from the deficit that happened around 2011. Its real GDP growth rate is 3.8% as in 2013. I try to research more towards the current economy, and this is kind of where it stops in a lot of cases online. So the purchasing power parity is 1.17 trillion as of 2013. It's 27% of GDP is from industry, and that's what we're focusing on. So, okay. Some policies and regulations, which is limited freedom, like we discussed before. There's a huge religious aspect to the country. It says that, the United States, they have freedom to press or stuff, but it's kind of monitored to see kind of look at private property. You can own any private property, but there's just a lot of discrepancies, whether if you're a foundation, a foreign foundation, community. There's not a lot of transportation problems, like Powell Road, cars by air, plane, sea, along boats, so that's a good thing. One downside is less educational opportunities. Compared to developing countries, there's not as good education, especially if you're going to higher education like college. Instead of us here, especially here, it's really easy to change your major. Not easy, but it's possible. Down up there, it's kind of you're set in stone, and if you do not achieve that major or want to continue with that major, you're kind of done. And how do you guys think that reflects jobs?
A lot of people get stuck with jobs they don't like.
Exactly. A lot of people who don't excel in school, they usually don't have very good jobs. And people who don't excel in school also, they it's usually going to family businesses that don't prosper very well. And then I drew the point of political effectiveness. A lot of times they focus on urban areas where there's a lot of people and don't really focus on rural areas. So in a lot of cases that also has to do with education. A lot of people in rural areas don't have as good education as people in urban areas because that's where it's set. Also electricity, water, that sort of thing.
So, quick question. So if there's a very little upward mobility, if you get stuck in a job where you kind of achieve as high as you can and you're not as effective, is the fallout of that potentially to go to work in the black market?
I'm going to cover a little bit more of the job industry with how and our other team member couldn't be here today due to an illness, so I'm going to be presenting on his behalf.
He called me, by the way, in his defense, he called me, he was freaking out. He said, he's really, really, really sorry. So I'm sure he contacted me. So anyhow, I wanted to pass that along. He felt really bad.
But so the bureaucratic and legal hurdles of getting a business started in Turkey are as follows. There's actually a step process to getting started that's laid out for anyone who wants to start doing business in Turkey, and we'll just read them out. To submit the memorandum and articles of association online at MPRSIS, notarize the company documents, obtain a tax identification number, deposit a percentage of capital to the account of competition authority, deposit at least 25% of the startup capital in a bank and obtain proof, apply for registration at the trade registry office, certify legal books by a notary public, commercial registries, company established notifications, and importing and exporting. In order to import and export, it can be a lengthy process and somewhat expensive. And there are high tax rates to relative other countries. The 40% of countries' total profits are based off of taxes. And then other obstacles faced, the language barrier. You have to learn the language, have an understanding of it, hire a business partner who speaks the language to avoid confusion, and hire a full-time translator to be able to do business in Turkey in English, along with the political instability, the limits economic growth in current businesses, constant rules and regulations, changes prevent businesses from focusing on long-term goals and investments. This makes them focus short-term and puts caps on how much money can be spent or earned due to changes in tax systems, trade regulations, and also puts a cap on economic growth due to constant changes in trade restrictions, price influx on imports and exports changing, usually overpriced. And foreign market, hire a lawyer with experience in Turkish business for legal advice. The legal system can be complicated and confusing to most when starting a new business, so a lawyer with experience can make transitions smooth and easy. With the many documents to get signed and notarized, to have someone with a good understanding of how it all works, it'll make the process go a lot smoother, and you're not going to run into any legal issues in the process. Look for advice on Turkish business market from people with experience. The Turkish market areas can be tricky due to some areas under normal government laws and others operating in free trade space. Ask those who have lived in Turkey which areas usually do better, and ask them questions about how people conduct business. Getting prior advice from someone who has ran a successful business in Turkey will give our company a greater understanding of where and how to conduct business. And a quick overview of the current economy. They're currently the 45th most competitive country. They have the 17th highest GDP at $827 million, and they're the 18th most populated country at 76.5 million, and currently hold a 7.5% inflation rate. I chose to do the quarter's competitive advantage versus the SWOT analysis because I figured since it's a national advantage, it would be more three-dimensional rather than just looking at opportunities, threats, and whatnot. So, factor conditions. Overall,
Excuse me for interrupting. Order 5 forces is a very powerful analysis too.
The factor conditions that come into play are the above average overall infrastructure at a rating of 5.1. And this graph that I have up there, Turkey creates their own investment and manufacturing, anything from manufacturing to the infrastructure to anything you really want to know about Turkey. They publish a whole report where you can look up basically any number, any information you could ever think of, and it's all online, ready to use. So that's where a lot of my sources are from. So just going off of that, that's what this graph is. One of the several graphs that are in that is looking at the overall infrastructure. You can see Turkey right there, number 33 with 5.1, which is above that, or past that line right there, so they're above the mean. And you can see other countries, Ireland, Sri Lanka, Czech Republic, Saudi Arabia, United Kingdom, so they're not too far from the very successful and rich countries. It's currently the 17th largest economy in the world, the 6th largest economy in Europe, with a GDP of approximately 800 billion in 2014. Regarding the infrastructure sector, the government allocated $26 billion in 2013. 30% of this budget is for the transportation sector, followed by education, energy, healthcare, and agriculture. And some of their major targets are having an export volume of $500 billion and being one of the top 10 economies in the world, increasing the length of high-speed railroad lines to 10,000 kilometers from 888 kilometers to 25% CAGR, achieving 8,000 kilometers of motorways from 2,155 kilometers during 2015. And there's several others, but they have a lot of goals for the infrastructure improvements. And with half of its population, I thought this was really interesting, with half of the population under 30, Turkey's young and dynamic population is creating one of the most skilled labor pools in the world. And there's the number of students graduating from manufacturing-related departments in universities exceeded 32,000 in 2012. So although there is the education system isn't perfect, and this isn't the #1 major that Turkish students choose, it's still a significant amount, and there's still a growing force for the manufacturing industry for employers. Please. Demand conditions. The main driver of the economy is manufacturing. So the manufacturing industry accounts for 24.2% of the total GDP. The Turkish manufacturing industry has been growing over the past decade and increasing at 11% since 2014. It exceeded gross domestic product growth levels and reached approximately $104 billion. The growth rate of Turkey has a growth rate of 4% when other countries suffered losses, such as the Czech Republic lost 3.1%, Brazil 1.4%, and India was 2.5%. The industry has grown since the economic crisis of 2009. And the related and supported industries that are within Turkey are the textile, chemicals, automotive, and other machinery, along with business services and financial services, with the automotive industry leading the manufacturing sector. And finally, the strategy, structure, and rivalry. Turkey has always, since the 1950s, has maintained a free market economy. Their geographic position allows them to pretty much trade with Asia, Africa, Europe, and a lot of ports, a lot of railways, a lot of infrastructure improvements. This is only going to improve our position in Turkey. And low labor costs, low corporate taxes, high growth rate per capita, personal disposable income, and the main rivalries of ours to manufacturing in the Czech Republic, Russia, Brazil, and the Netherlands. And the current domestic and international players that are currently manufacturing in Turkey include the domestic companies of enthralling, Vestel, and Cocktail, BSH Home Appliances, which is a German company, which I've mentioned before. I interned with them over the summer, and Instit, which is an Italian company, and which Artelic owns 50% of the market share. Vestel owns 20%, and there's several plants all over Turkey, including Istanbul, Istiklal, Bolu, Ankara, and more. And there's several brands that each company produces. So, for instance, BSH Home Appliances operates Bosch, Siemens, Gaggenau, and several other brands.
Okay. So the status of Turkey's IT and other infrastructure. Right now, the capital of Turkey is Istanbul, and it's kind of like the cultural center hub of Turkey. And it's really modern, and not just the capital itself, the whole country is really modern. They have modern organized public transportation, modern new cars. A lot of young adults carry digital devices now, lots of skyscrapers. So just in general, just a really kind of modern country for not being super up there among the big players in the world. Going on to their cellular phone and mobile network status, at Boğaziçi University, they have place a special emphasis on their highly qualified graduates. They like to move them into like the technology sector in the company, or sorry, in the country. And so, yeah, even though Carly brought up earlier how it's kind of, they don't let you change majors and it's kind of a bit of a flawed education system. If you are one of the fewer people that do graduate and graduate, well and do well in your class, they like to move you towards the technological side of things. Right now, there are 65 active mobile phones, and 25 million of those mobile phones are actually smartphones, so that's less than a third, which is pretty good for Turkey. Right now, their wireless internet coverage, is almost 80%, and their global system for mobile communications is there we go. Yeah. Their global system for mobile communications is at almost 100%. So it's not like you're going to Turkey and communicating with Morse code. So it's you're going to be really easy to communicate. You're not going to have too many problems with that. Right now, their internet network status has 30 to 35 million users and 25 million Facebook users, which surprisingly is the fifth highest in the world out of all the countries. They also have a cash flow from telecommunications of 3.3 billion, so that's kind of what Turkey is banking on at the moment. They also have the Ambitious Faith program, which is what they're trying to do with that is they're looking to provide tablet computers for children in all their schools nationwide. I know Turkey is huge, it's not like the US, but that's nonetheless a pretty big undertaking, and the fact that they're trying to do that, it means like they're really pushing towards the technological side of things, and they're really trying to be modern and advanced. Turkey has like made all these really big technological jumps, and they're really technological countries leading that, but they do have issues with security. Right now, in a study done, they took 25 European countries, and Turkey ranks 25th, which is very good. Obviously, they had a security rating of 2.6 points, and Finland actually was the highest at 5.8 points. So Turkey had problems with password protection, spam filters, privacy controls. So how that relates to our manufacturing industry, Turkey's a very developed country. I mean, it's not up there with the big players, but its telecommunications is very developed. Its wireless network is strong. It's going to be easy communicating, and it's got a large mobile coverage network, and that's going to be key, especially when starting up in our manufacturing plant over there. And especially being early in development, it's going to be like really key to keep up with the fast-paced world. We're going to have to make sure that we have our own IT sector, setting a lot of firewalls, a lot of security, making sure they're checking emails, making sure spam's not getting through just because of all the security issues.
So after like hearing our presentation, you guys do business.
Yeah.
I'm wondering because I saw Ankara under this, and I heard on the news they're like bombing Ankara, or that's one of the ISIL targets, I guess.
They have bombed it, or they're planning?
Yeah. No,
I'm not doing this.
sorry.
They're bonding. I'm not doing business.
Yeah.
There
So
was a bomb.
I mean,
it's like,
but we're on the bombing list, California, so that means you gotta go to school.
I understand that. I just was wondering what effect do you think that again Turkey is although next to Pakistan, it's not in the midst of it, but arguably there's some things going on in that part of the world that could affect the industry, and so I'm just curious what. By the way, to compliment you all, the way you present and you talk to us, you're not like reading off of something and you're not scripted, you're actually speaking from your delivery is excellent. So that's why I feel comfortable talking to you about issues that are real sensitive, like what about all these bad guys in that part of the world, and how will that affect your industry?
Just coming, I don't know, just giving you a little bit of something. You might
Yeah.
not be good. But it kind of reminded me of that exercise we did in class when we barely spoke English. And, oh, you're getting bombed. Your family just died, and we're trying to get this agreement with them. I feel like it's all along the lines of that. It's about building trust with whoever you're doing business with, and thinking about the future as well. There's devastating things going on, but you gotta back up, and we can help you with that. We got some home appliances,
issue with the Syrian bombing crisis and terrorists getting bombed. I don't think it's going to necessarily impact the industry as much as one would think of the UK getting bombed, because it's something that they are not a direct target, but they are in the midst of it. So although we have to take more caution when entering, and obviously heighten security issues and heighten safety, but I don't think it needs to necessarily halt our business altogether.
Can I comment on that?
Yeah.
Just going off of that, if you consider Israel, Israel's been in war pretty much all of the time they've been a country, but they are one of the greatest technological innovators of the world. And especially in terms of, like, for example, you're saying it would require great data protection. Well, Israel is at the forefront of data protection because they're constantly in war. So it could prove to be an advantage too.
Yeah.
Well, and you said it, I think, real well. It's like that's just part of the way of life. So you start getting used to it. It's
Yeah.
like that's the new norm.
Yeah, I actually have a few friends in Israel, and I was talking to one of them the other day, and he goes, "Oh, you want to see the new knife I got?" Because he's starting to carry a knife around in his pocket, and to me, it's like, what? Do I want to see the knife that you're carrying around in your pocket? And he's like, yeah. If people are going to start stabbing each other, I'm going to have a knife in my pocket.
Kind of like in the Wild West, why didn't have people strap guns to their side? Oh, yeah, everybody had them.
Yeah.
We would think that horrible today, but then it was normal. So, like having those sorts of things. Yeah, very good. Good presentation. Good choice.
Yeah. Nigeria. What?
Let me, let's perhaps
The
have
agriculture?
next group go ahead and come on up.
The agriculture.
That presentation was very professionally done, and I felt. And I got to tell you, I'm in the doctoral program at the Chicago School. Presentations are the things that teams make, and I would say this is every bit as good and as challenging as the program that I'm in over there. And the research, you introduce Porter's 5-force analysis, it's excellent. The sociological tools that are available to us and its application in the industries. I mean, I learned a lot about Turkey. But you think about there's 800 something million as their GDP. We are, what did we show up there before? It was like 18 trillion. So can you imagine, comparatively speaking, think about that for a second. The United States is 18 trillion and all of Turkey is not even a trillion. So, you know, that demonstrates how wealthy we really are as a nation. We are so gifted. You know, I held up that $5 green machine. That how we can afford to even do things like that is something that we take for granted. And also living in a world that's filled with strife. As was pointed out, you know, bombs are not dropping on our heads, and you know, we get a little concerned, you know, about our domestic security when on a daily basis that occurs. I was watching the news last night. Maybe the reason I'm a little rattled is because Yola, Nigeria. I think I shared with all of you. I spoke at the American University in Yola, Nigeria. The president of Nigeria went to Yola day before yesterday, and he was there to announce that Boko Haram and the insurgency had been contained. That was 2 days ago. Yesterday, they blew up the square and killed 30 people in downtown Yola, where I myself went. And I think I told the story when I was there, you know, after I got outside the guarded area with security, and I saw that the two little kids playing with sticks, just having the time of their life, you know, having a lot of fun and being happy. It was in that square, that same square that was just blown up yesterday. And I didn't see that on the news. I was watching not CNN and not Fox, but QON, what's the other network? Al Jazeera, and which I watch sometimes. By the way, I watch a lot of different news, CCTV. I watch China news. I get a global perspective from watching different news outlets, and I would encourage you guys all to look at the world through other lenses, not just our own. Go on to other networks and see how we're viewed by others and those sorts of things. You dimensionally get a better three-dimensional picture than you do necessarily from the myopic one-directional information system. So anyhow, that's what this class is about, is looking at things differently through different lenses. So with that, please
All right.
take it away.
So we are Team Nigeria, and before we start, we know that all of you have your laptops open pretty much already, and if you don't, I'm sure you have a smartphone in your pocket. So if you have a Twitter account, we encourage you to go on Twitter and follow us, Team Nigeria 4.
Right, there you go.
And we would like you to live tweet our presentation.
Hey,
We also have a hashtag for our presentation. It's WCTN, Team Nigeria. So, as you're following along, you can read some of the articles we've already posted. Tell us what you think about our presentation. Give us feedback. You can post any other things cool you know about Nigeria that might help us. Whatever you want to do, but we thought we'd just, make this a little more interactive. And you didn't have enough of our presentation after this is over. We're live streaming right now. So
Right.
you can live tweet us, watch us. You can watch us from your computer while we're presenting now. And you can also go back and watch us for up to 8 hours.
Excellent. Excellent. I
Keep
like
watching, wow.
it. I like it.
So with that, Team Nigeria 4, hashtag WCTN. Here we go. This is Nigeria's industry overview.
All right.
Do I get to do the clap thing where I go, yay?
You have to go onto YouTube.
Okay, all right. I want to clap. Okay.
All right, so I'm going to be talking about the government policies and regulations that Nigeria has implemented with agriculture and technology and e-agriculture. So Nigeria's role in the technological revolution. Right now, technology is something that is really just skyrocketing and becoming very important in the business world. And so with the ongoing revolution in technology and the realization that no country can move forward without advancing in it, Nigeria has joined kind of everyone else in the rest of the world in, improving their technological advancements. So some examples where they have done this is in the educational, financial, and government sector. In the educational sector, the Joint Admissions and Matriculation Board and West African Examinations Council has allowed students to register for examinations and check their results and print their results online. Also, there have been various companies that are not necessarily in Nigeria that are out. So, like for example, through initiatives of AirHub Incorporation, which is part of the U.S., they've launched the first phase of electronic learning facilities across Nigerian universities, which are meant to help the students with online training and this spreading across Nigeria as well. Also in the financial sector, banks and financial institutions have begun to provide basic online services, things like checking your account or transferring money through online, and also, they're expanding this as well. So it's growing. It's growing slowly, but it's gonna expand.
And then also in the government sector, they've launched different e-government programs, which typically are online websites where citizens can go and learn about different government like positions and what their government officials are doing, as well as being able to get in contact through email with their government officials. They also have websites for useful application forms, along with necessary instructions that are made available for citizens to download and use. So they don't have to go to offices to get important like paperwork or things like that. Citizens can now just kind of go online on the website and print all these things out. There are some challenges though with kind of going into e-commerce and kind of using technology in Nigeria. There are very poor and obsolete communication facilities. There is unreliable electricity supply. There's poor implementation of computerization. There's computer phobia, which has all led to inadequate use of computers among citizens. And there's also fear of insecure online payments, which is especially important if you're doing business in Nigeria. You want to make sure that your transactions are being safely monitored. Also, there is still negative attitudes from government agencies that still have inadequate funding and inadequate sustainability of manpower to effectively practice e-commerce. They did, though, start the Nigeria National Information Technology Policy in March of 2001. And basically that agency was established to create a framework for the planning, research, development, standardization, application, coordination, monitoring, evaluation, and regulation of information technology practices and systems in Nigeria. So they've set up, I guess, a committee that is kind of in charge of helping them develop technology and implement it into Nigeria. Also another thing, agriculture. Agriculture still is very prominent in Nigeria. Nigeria is blessed with a bunch of resources that are like natural, mineral, as well as human resources. But despite that, it still hasn't been able to take all of that profit and distribute it equally among its people. And this is because of oil, like we talked about last in our last presentation. So Nigeria has earned about 340 billion from oil revenue in 40 years, but it's still ranked 13th poorest country in the world. And then also prior to the discovery of oil, the Nigerian economy was agrarian. So like I was saying, agriculture is gives them a lot of profit and is very successful in the country. And so then also agriculture contributes 40% against 13% to the GDP. It also employs 2/3 of the nation's total labor force. And then if Nigeria was able to produce enough food in the future, it could feed its growing population and lessen its dependence on oil revenue. So we kind of started to think about if there was some way we can mix kind of technology and agriculture together. And so that's where you come up with e-agriculture. And kind of this is a upcoming market in Nigeria. So basically e-agriculture is the incorporation of IT into farming. It involves integration of diverse technologies and positively impacting the efficiency of the farming activities. And so actually the NITDA and the Federal Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development have come together to create actually a portal called Agricultural Transformation Agenda that has created the National E-Agricultural Web Portal, and this portal basically introduces other stakeholders to farmers, where they can talk about like financing, farming, agro industry, distribution and logistics, food security, nutrition and consumption. So it it's kind of the pathway for farmers to kind of talk to investors and negotiate kind of a business plan for farming through technology. There's been various startups too already. There's one called Fugo Trade, I think that's how you pronounce it, where they also get you in contact with, if you have livestock, you can get in contact with the website and they'll also connect you with different investors or companies that are looking for agriculture and products like
So I'm gonna be talking. So I'm going to be talking about the IT infrastructure. Just a brief introduction. The IT infrastructure can be described in one word, which is growth. Nigeria definitely wants to move in a direction where it's embracing new technology and implementing that into new sectors of Nigeria. So they want to use technology to improve education, the economy, etc. Some overall viewpoints, there are an increasing number of large investments being made into the ICT sector of Nigeria, which has increased over the last few years. And I'll talk about all of these points a little bit more in the next slides. Some important things for us as focusing on e-commerce is the accessibility to cellular communication, which has been increasing, as well as internet accessibility, which has been increasing as well. And that has kind of opened doors for GSMs, which are a global system for mobile communications, and ISP, which is internet service providers. They've been licensed to operate more in Nigeria, and it's kind of improved things in terms of ICT. So internet users in Nigeria. So internet users in terms of in Nigeria has been increasing. So the red line there is actually the world average, and the gray line is Nigeria. So it's been increasing, and it's actually passed the world average in the last couple of years, and it's still growing. It's mostly not in the rural areas; it's mostly in the urban areas where internet cafes are popping up, and they're usually private owned. In 2014, 6 million internet users were recorded, and that was 2.3 of the share of the world's internet users. So it's not much, but it's still going up at a steady rate. From 2013 to 2014, it was a 16% increase, and that big increase between 2007 and 2008 was like 141% increase, which is pretty crazy. Mobile cellular subscriptions. The penetration of cell phones in Nigeria is 68%, and a quarter of Nigerians have a smartphone, and that number is going up as well. You can see their average there going up. There are nearly 130 million active mobile connections in the country right now, which is a lot more than the 90 million recorded in 2010. The top GSMs right now are MTN Nigeria, Airtel, Globalcom, and Etisalat. As well, the policies that have been set in place have also been kind of an effort to embrace the ICT. So a significant milestone for that was the National Information Technology Policy, which was approved in March 2001. And its purpose is documented as bedrock. That IT is the bedrock for national survival, and it wants to use technology to improve education, creation of wealth, poverty eradication, job creation, and global competitiveness. Some other major initiatives are the 2020 plan, which is actually a document that lays out how they're gonna improve their economy through IT in the next 5 years. They want to stimulate Nigeria's economic growth and launch the country on a path of sustained and rapid socioeconomic development. Their second purpose for that is to place Nigeria in a bracket of the top 20 largest economies by the year 2020. And they want to be able to achieve a GDP of less than 900 billion and a per capita income of $4,000 a year. So some things that they actually need to work on is definitely they're educating their youth on technology and how to better use it. They're definitely moving at an increasing rate, but it definitely needs to move a little faster. A lot of critics or articles that I was reading say that they're moving at a slow rate, so it doesn't look like they're going to reach their 2020 initiative.
So I'm going to talk about a little bit about the financial and banking status of Nigeria. It's actually really difficult to find some solid information on this topic. I think it's really just because it's in a really serious period of transitions, but I'll do my best to give you what I got. And I encourage you to keep live tweeting our presentation. Team Nigeria for #WCTN. Okay, so first I'm going to talk a little bit about the current status of their monetary policy. We touched on a little bit before with our last presentation about how there's a huge decline in oil, and as a result of that, the Nigerian central bank has implemented a really tight monetary policy. So there's the currency has been rationed. There's been they've really limited foreign exchange trading. And as a result, there's been record high interest rates, which you can see just like skyrocketed. And now it's at a steady 13%, which is crazy. And you can see that as a result, foreign holdings of the Naira have dropped 27%, from 27% to 10% just in the last few years. And at a time like this where they're already losing all this revenue from oil, this is really substantial because it means there's that additional loss from the loss of foreign investment. So as a result, JP Morgan has actually removed Nigeria from its local currency emerging market bond index, which totally sucks for Nigeria. These are the reasons why, the main reasons why they did that. The main concern was that there was a potential shortage of liquidity, and there was really no way to confirm that because there was such limited transparency with respect to the bank and the government, which there's been a pretty tight relationship there. The bank pretty much hasn't done anything without the approval of President Buhari, so that's another issue that's kind of played a role in that. I don't totally understand what this means, that they were inefficient operating in a two-way FX market. I was hoping that you could expand on that a little bit, perhaps, but
I wish I could, but
it seemed, yeah, it pretty much,
then maybe.
yeah. So I put it up there just in case, just because it was something I read about, but I was really just unclear about what that meant. So maybe I should have just omitted it, but.
No, it's good you bring it up.
Yeah, so the consequences of that is that the loss that they're going to receive from this is that they would have to sell more than $3 billion in Nigerian bonds in order to compensate for the loss that they are going to experience from this event, which essentially means that they need a lot of this investment, despite the fact that the demand for investment is declining. And even if they were to implement a new financial policy, before JP Morgan would reconsider this. So they have a whole year of this kind of loss. Moving forward, just in terms of the financial implications of starting a business in Nigeria, these are the various steps that you would have to go through. Let's skip this actually. That's a picture. So anyways, moving forward, recently President Buhari actually announced his cabinet. He was elected 6 months ago. And so in terms of limited transparency being one of the major reasons for investors being hesitant to invest in Nigeria was because he still didn't have a cabinet for months after his inauguration. So there was really a lot of concern about the objectives that he had with respect to financial policy and things like that. But he recently announced that Kemi Adeosun was going to be the finance minister, which I guess was a surprising decision for some reason. But her in previous experience has actually done a lot of really good things. He hired her because he believes that she's going to be able to reduce corruption, which is really, as we've talked about, really big in Nigeria.
Is the reason why it's so surprising is that it's a woman? Is it not common to have a woman as a
Yeah, that was
government
one
official?
thing that I was wondering. I don't think so. I'm not sure why. I just read that it was surprising, and I didn't, no one really said why it was surprising. But it might have been because I think what she was doing before was really, maybe it was different. I'm not sure. But she was really hired with the focus of eliminating corruption. I read a statistic that said approximately 80% of government revenue is generated from oil sales. But in the last 3 years, it was reported that $2 billion was stolen of that revenue. So you consider all the deficits Nigeria is experiencing right now. They're already losing sales from oil. On top of that, people are stealing that money. And then on top of that, they're losing foreign investment. So they're kind of just getting screwed in all directions. So the hope is that with this new cabinet, that there's going to be some direction established with respect to monetary and fiscal policy, and that Nigeria can kind of get back on track in terms of that. So that's a good thing for investors, and investors are actually really excited about the introduction of the cabinet because it means that there's some certainty after this period of great uncertainty, and that's really significant for considering starting a business in Nigeria.
So I'm going to be going over the SWOT analysis of Nigeria. Now, SWOT is an acronym for standing for our strengths, opportunities, weaknesses, and threats. And it's kind of a framework for you to identify and evaluate the value-creating opportunities or factors that actually count when you're starting up a company or a business. So that's why I thought kind of put together what they said as well as a couple other things I found on Nigeria. Now, an overview of the current and domestic as well as international players that are happening or that are growing right now. Number one, the biggest type of enterprises or businesses that there are SMEs, which are small and medium enterprises. There's no big giant company like Apple or Nike there. But there are companies like Jumia, which is the Nigerian version of Amazon. Konga, which is as well Nigerian Amazon, as well as they have their own advertising. And the last two are big players because just like Jessica was saying, a lot of foreign investors were the ones that were funding these companies. So Camu Nigeria is kind of like a platform where you can buy and sell things there. And they had a lot of Chinese investors and a lot of investments coming from the US, which is declining as well. And Tafu, which is a closed distributor, kind of similar to Forever 21. So if you ever go to Nigeria, that's the place to shop. But a lot of these companies have been getting hurt because of the foreign and domestic policies that are happening there, as well as the lack of investments. Now, there's a couple of issues that are affecting the e-commerce sector, as well as in our case, the agriculture sector. Of course, in general, some issues that affect the e-commerce. There's taxation, this lack of security there, different privacy sectors that we have to take a look at. Profitability is always not there. Happiness with the customers, as well as participation in new international standards development, which is, of course, when you enter a new market, you do need to coincide with what they're doing there so that they allow you to sell a great business there. And the main reasons why Nigeria is getting kind of a low penetration in the e-commerce is because, of course, it is a higher cost to ship goods in Nigeria from other places. There is, just like they were saying, low credit card penetration, and people are just not funding other businesses in Nigeria, as well as in Nigeria, cash is king. So people don't really pay with credit or don't like using credit cards or anything like that. And the last one I thought was pretty funny because it's unreliable last mile delivery. But here in the U.S., we're not too sure about having drones. Amazon not having drones because somebody can shoot one down and take the products. Over there, they're not too sure about even ordering online because maybe in the last mile somebody can chop the head of the person delivering the product and steal. So those are some of the big things and aspects that are affecting the agriculture there. Now, but some of the advantages that e-commerce actually has, especially in Nigeria, is that it aids business development in some countries. It does improve communication and coordination, which as well in any business can facilitate globalizing. So if they have a great product or they have something that is revolutionizing there, they can expand it all over the world thanks to the e-commerce, as well as it helps reduce the cost of operation, which in our agriculture kind of subject, there's a lot of money that you need to pay for all the employees. You need to have maybe things shipped from one place to another. You need to go sell your products and things like that. If you add the e-commerce sector to that, you can kind of be the middleman for that instead of having to spend all that money on all the different costs, as well as like I said, the cost of production. There's easier online comparison, so maybe you can compare the traps versus other companies or other products similar to it. Better customer service because you can actually have easier access to your customer, as well as it can support the economic development, which is happening a lot, especially in Lagos, which is one of the biggest capitals of e-commerce and growing development. Now, some of the disadvantages, of course, are that, just like they were saying, security is one of them, reliability is one of them. Some of the resources that are lacking there, of course, are the skills, because there's a lot of government that's involved in businesses, which means what? They just run it however they want, as well as there's a lack of resources, and just like they were saying, funding is getting moved around a lot, and a lot of it is lost. So that's a big thing for any business that you need is funding, and integrity, of course, which comes with that, as well as a lot of the power supply and funding and all these external infrastructure things that are necessary for a business to run successfully. So one of the biggest threats that kind of started internally and externally now there in this sector is a company called Passport USA, short for PUSA, which is actually developing a shopping cart so that people can shop in Nigeria, because Nigeria is not a very open economy. You can't just be in Nigeria and shop for things, in China or online in the US. But thanks to PUSA, they actually partnered with MasterCard and have given their consumers unrestricted access to a lot of products worldwide, especially in the US. And that hurts the Nigerian economy in the sense of instead of buying things locally, now they can go buy somewhere else, which means their money is going somewhere else. And people can buy, anything from books, DVDs, fashion stuff, even cars, and all they need is internet access, which is something that's growing in Nigeria. So for Nigerian businesses and something that's growing in Nigeria, it is a threat because now people are going to be shopping somewhere else instead of there. But there is some opportunity as well happening in Nigeria. I know we were talking about lack of funding. That's one of the biggest threats happening. Now, EcoBank is actually a very well-known bank in Nigeria. It's kind of their local bank of most of the communities there, which is really good because for people that are looking for funding, they're actually doing like a credit program for either for small businesses or if you want to just have some money to buy things, as well as they actually understand EcoBank is a bank that was built on different communities and run by people in that community. So they have a better understanding of their people, of what their needs are and things like that, so that the government doesn't interfere with EcoBank and they can fund whatever projects you need to have funded. There was one slide that was missing. So those are some opportunities that are in Nigeria right now that are present. So if you're looking to do some e-commerce business or the agricultural business in Nigeria, EcoBank's a great way to fund you, especially with the lack of funding happening in Nigeria. So the SWOT analysis that we did. I don't know. Would you guys like to fund or do business in Nigeria? Question.
Yeah, with the building more roads helping the e-commerce, because if the road is not paved,
Right.
so how they can ship? So how is the
I guess what I would say is if there are efforts to improve technology and there are efforts to, because the government knows that they can't continue to rely on oil as its main source of revenue, especially with the decline in sales. So my analysis would just be that if they're going to start shifting their investment towards other industries, that they're going to have to start investing in infrastructure as well, and they're going to have to start implementing these policies so that these different development projects can happen, because otherwise it won't be able to, they won't succeed in any of their efforts. So I would just assume that it would be kind of a consequence of investing in other things, and that it would have to be a priority for them to succeed in any other sector.
Is the government willing to subsidize some of these things or help more people get like internet connection, stuff like that?
Well, funding wise, I know, like I mentioned EcoBank because it's one of the biggest ones there. It's kind of the giant financially there, and they're actually trying to work with the government to come up with some financial kind of incentives to loan out to people, since they do have those problems with funding. So I don't know if directly they're going to be giving internet to people and things like that, but the money is being made available for people. So if in a connecting and a globalizing world, especially now and with phones and social media and things like that, people are going to be getting on it and people are going to be looking for it. So as long as they have the funding for it, I'm sure it's going to be a lot helpful. It's going to be connected.
Any other thoughts?
Well, before you leave, I just want to compliment what a great job you guys did. I think Denzel has, if I'm not mistaken, you've read the American University in Nigeria Innovation and Social Entrepreneurship program that I put forth in Yola, Nigeria, addressing some, and I just looked here and I saw Ford, Nigeria, and I would say of many of the African nations, Nigeria is really trying to get above and beyond in all these tweets, but a great idea.
This one I thought was really cool too. I saw just their side note. So there was a big controversy in the last couple of weeks because there was the bombing in Paris. There was also a bombing in Nigeria, which they attributed to Boko Haram, the terrorist group that we touched on in our last presentation. But I read an article that said initially, so Facebook has a secure or a safety check. So when things like this happen, you can check, hey, I'm safe. I actually saw, I have a friend in Chile right now, and when there was an earthquake in Chile, he said, hey, everyone, I'm safe. But Facebook only turned it on in Paris initially. And so this article is about how it ended up turning on in Nigeria. And in terms of improved communication in Nigeria, this wouldn't be significant without the development of technology.
And Ray, I firsthand experience that when I was in Yola, Yola's on one end of the country and Lagos is on the other end of the country. And the shipment of goods out to Yola is difficult. And the railway, every time they start trying to build the railway, they fund it. And then unfortunately, because the corruption is so prevalent, that they never get, it stalls because they steal the money and they do other stuff with it. So every time they try to get a project going, as appalled as we may think when, we'll have to do that next class. So they'll shoot somebody in the head and take their truck just out of convenience, rather than, you know how we would think like the mercy rule, you know, put a gun to your head, get out of the truck, and I'm gonna shoot this truck of oil, let's say. We would say, okay, don't shoot me, and they just take the truck, right? Well, oftentimes in Nigeria, that doesn't even work. It's easier and more convenient to and it's just that sort of mentality that Boko Haram has had that is, it's just strange. However, if you looked at 130 million mobile devices, mobile cell phones, think about it. We only have 300 million people live in all of the United States.